Welcome back to another thrilling installment of Fraggoth Reads. I'm your intrepid narrator, Fraggoth, and today we're going to be reading more of Cyteen by C.J. Cherryh. So the kids are growing up. We've seen some scenes of Ari, Florian, and Lil'Catlin as they go through a union-powered youth, although it is not necessarily a typical union youth. That's union with a capital U. That's the call it a nation, space state that they are in. It is not typical because, of course, they are living in living in Rezun, kind of in a bubble that is designed to emulate Ari's upbringing, the days of her youth, with the intent of making her turn out more or less like she did before, or at least nurturing the ability she had before. She doesn't have to be the same person, she just has to have the same ability. Whether that's working or not is anyone's guess at this point. It's hard to be sure. Justin finally gets to talk with his father, who is Jordan, who is under house arrest up at Planus, basically under lock and key by the folks at Defense. And, the large bombshell drops about the 40,000 in Gehenna, incident where, apparently under Ariane Emory's say-so, basically a colony gets started. It's a collusion between Ari and Defense. Apparently, a colony gets started on a planet that is very hospitable, ultimately, to human life, terrestrial life. And they drop all these colonists on this planet. It is behind enemy lines at the time. It is in Alliance space as opposed to Union space. And then they just kind of leave them there. They don't give them any resources or anything. 50 to 100 years has passed, subjectively, for them. And they're kind of like, well, Alliance has discovered this. And it is a political hurricane. And so Defense starts giving the current head of Rezun, Gerard Nye, some ultimatums. Ultimata? I'm not sure what the plural of that is. Good morning to you, Cherryh. I am doing quite well, finally. I have been sick for the past couple days. I haven't been happy about that, but we are on the road to recovery. I need to be doing more of this. This reading, it helps heal me. So that's kind of the major stuff that's happened. Last time. And this is kind of what... Admittedly, it's not wholly necessary that I have read... that I read aloud 40,000 in Gehenna before this, because only about, a third to at most a half of that book is actually relevant for the events of this one, because it goes on many generations down the line after that. But I figured I'd say, hey, what's this all about? Maybe I should have done it the other way around. It doesn't really matter. I think it was published before this. I'd have to double check. This was first published... When was Cyteen first published? Late 80s, I think? 88. A good year indeed. For some. Let's get rocking and a-rolling. We have another verbal text from Patterns of Growth. And then we'll get started on Chapter 6. How long is Chapter 6? Oh, it's pretty long. I might have to cut that one in half. Oh yeah, it just keeps going. And going. And going. That is very nearly 60 pages. Ooh. Might have to shave that down. Yeah, let's shave that down. We'll do that. See how that goes. Impromptu bookmark. Impromptu bookmark, part the second. All right, let me slurp down some water real quick. Fraggoth, take care of yourself. You are important, and you are one hell of a reader. Thank you. I appreciate that. I apologize, incidentally, to the folks who keep listening to the Area X trilogy and getting upset about spoilers I apparently did at some point. I apologize. Apparently me saying something's important and you and you need to pay attention to it, it counts as a spoiler. So, my apologies for that, I guess. Sorry, kind of sorry. I don't think I called out anything specific in terms of spoiling things, but evidently it was enough. Okay, so we will continue on with Cyteen by C.J. Cherryh. Verbal text from Patterns of Growth, a tape study in genetics. Number 1. An interview with Ariane Emory, Part 2. Rezun Educational Publications, 8970-8768-1. Approved for 80+. Q. Dr. Emory, we have time perhaps for a few more questions, if you wouldn't mind. A. Go ahead. Q. You're one of the specials. Some people say that you may be one of the greatest minds that's ever lived in the class of Da Vinci, Einstein, and Boke. How do you feel about that comparison? A. I would like to have known any one of them. I think it would be interesting. I think I can guess your next question, by the way. Q. O. A. Ask it. Q. How do you compare yourself to other people? A. That's not the one. Other people. I'm not sure I know. I live a very cloistered life. I have a great respect for anyone who can drive a truck in the outback or pilot a starship, or negotiate the Novgorod subway. Laughter. I suppose that I could. I've never tried. But life is always complex. I'm not sure whether it takes more for me to plot a genotype than for someone of requisite ability to do any of those things I find quite daunting. Q. That's an interesting point. But do you think driving a truck is equally valuable? Should we appoint specials for that ability? What makes you important? A. Because I have a unique set of abilities. No one else can do what I do. That's what a special is. Q. How does it feel to be a special? A. That's very close to the question I thought you'd ask. I can tell you being a special is a lot like being a counselor or holding any office. Very little privacy, very high security, more attention than seems to make sense. Q. Can you explain that last? Then seems to make sense? A. Laughter. A certain publication asked me to detail a menu of my favorite foods. A reporter once asked me whether I believed in reincarnation. Do these things make sense?
I'm a psych surgeon and a geneticist and occasionally a philosopher, in which consideration the latter question actually makes more sense to me than the first. But what in hell does either one matter to the general public? More than my science, you say? No. What the reporters are looking for is an equation that finds some balance between my psyche and their demographically ideal viewer, who is a myth and a reality. What they ask may bore everyone equally by pleasing no one exactly, but never mind. What brings us finally to the question I expect you're going to ask.
Q. That's very disconcerting.
A. Ask it. I'll tell you if we've found it yet.
Q. All right. I think we've gotten there. Is this it? What do you know that no one else does?
A. Oh, I like that better. What do I know? That's interesting. No one's ever put it that way before. Shall I tell you the question they always ask? What it feels like to have a specials ability. What do I know is a much wiser question. What I feel, I'll answer that quite briefly, the same as anyone who is isolate, different, and capable of understanding the reason for the isolation and the difference. What do I know? I know that I am relatively unimportant, and my work is vastly important. That's the thing the interviewer missed, who asked me what I eat. My preference in wines is utter trivia, unless you're interested in my personal biochemistry, which does interest me, and does matter, but certainly that has very little to do with an article on famous people and food, whatever that means. If that writer discovered a true connection between genius and cheeses, I am interested, and I want to interview him. Fortunately, my staff protects me against the idly curious. The state set me apart because in the aggregate the state, the people, if you will, know that given the freedom to work, I will work, and work for the sake of my work, because I am a monomaniac. Because I do have that emotional dimension the other reporters were trying to reach. I do have an aesthetic sense about what I do, and it applies to what one very ancient special called the pursuit of beauty. I think everyone can understand that on some level, on whatever level. That ancient equated it with truth. I call it balance. I equate it with symmetry. That's the nature of a special. That's what you're really looking for. A special's mind works in abstracts and A special's mind works in abstracts that transcend the limitations of any existing language. A special has the long view, and equally well the wide view, that embraces more than any single human word will embrace, simply because communicative language is the property of the masses. And the word with a capital W, that the special sees, understands, comprehends in the root sense of the term, is a word outside the experience of anyone previous. So he calls it beauty, or truth, or balance, or symmetry. Frequently he expresses himself through the highly flexible language of mathematics, or if his discipline does not express itself readily in that mode, he has to create a special meaning for certain words within the context of his work, and attempt to communicate in the semantic freight his language has accumulated for centuries. My language is partly mathematical, partly biochemical, partly semantics. I study biochemical systems, human beings, which react predictably on a biochemical level to stimuli passing through a system of receptors, hardware, of biochemically determined sensitivity. Through a biochemical processor of biochemically determined Through a biochemical processor of biochemically determined efficiency, hardware again, dependent on a self-programming system which is also biochemical, which produces a uniquely tailored software capable of receiving information from another human being with a degree of specificity limited principally by its own hardware, its own software, and semantics. We haven't begun to speak of the hardware and software of the second human being, nor have we addressed the complex dimension of culture or the possibility of devising a mathematics for social systems the games statisticians and demographers play on their level and I play on mine. I will tell you that I leave much of the work with microstructures to researchers under my direction, and I have spent more of my time in thinking than I have in the laboratory. I am approaching a degree of order in that thought that I can only describe as a state of simplicity. a very wide simplicity. Things which did not seem to be related are related. The settling of these things into order is a pleasurable sensation that increasingly lures the thinker into dimensions that have nothing to do with the senses. Attaching myself to daily life is increasingly difficult, and I sometimes find myself needing that. The flesh needs affirmation, needs sensation, because otherwise I do not, personally, exist. And I exist everywhere. At the end, I will speak one word, and it will concern humanity. I don't know if anyone will understand it. I have a very specific hope that someone will. This is the emotional dimension. But if I succeed, my successor will do something I can only see in the distance. In a sense, I am doing it, because getting this far is part of it. But the flesh needs rest from visions. Lives are short-term, even one extended by rejuve. I give you truth. Someone, someday, will understand my notes. That is myself, speaking the language not even another special can understand, because his beauty is different, and proceeds along another course. If you're religious, you may think we have seen the same thing, or that we must lead to the same thing. I am not, myself, certain. We are God's dice, to answer still another special. Now I've given you more than I've given any other interviewer, because you asked the best question. I'm sorry I can't answer in plain words. By now, the average citizen is capable of understanding Plato, and some may know Einstein. The majority of scientists have yet to grasp Boke. You will know, in a few centuries, what I know right now. But humanity in the macrocosm is quite wise, because in the mass you are as visionary as any special. You give me my freedom, and I prove the validity of your judgment.
Q. You can't interpret this thing you are.
A. If I could, I would. If words existed to describe it, I would not be what I am.
Q. You've served for decades in the legislature. Isn't that a waste? Isn't that a job someone else could do?
A. Good question. No, not in this time. Not in this place. The decisions we make are very important. The events of the last 5 decades prove that. And I need contact with reality. I benefit in a spiritual way, if you like. In a way that affects my personal biochemical systems and keeps them in healthy balance. It's not good for the organism to let the abstract grow without checking the perceptions. In simpler terms, it's a remedy against intellectual isolation and a service I do my neighbors. An abstract mathematician probably doesn't have anywhere near our most junior counselor's understanding of the interstellar futures market or the pros and cons of a medical care system for merchanters on Union stations. But the very nature of my work, I do have that understanding. By the very nature of my work, I do have that understanding, and I have a concern for human society. I know people criticize the council system as wasting the time of experts. If providing expert opinion to the society in which we all live is a waste of time, then what good are we? Of course, certain theorists can't communicate outfield, but certain ones can, and should. You've seen the experts disagree. Sometimes it's because one of us fails to understand something in another field. Very often it's because... I can't read that. What is going on? Very often it's because the best thinking in 2 fields fails to reconcile a question of practical effects, and that is precisely the point in which the people doing the arguing had better be experts. Some very useful interdisciplinary understandings are hammered out in council and in the private meetings, a fusion of separate bodies of knowledge that actually sustains this unique social experiment we call union. That's one aspect of the simplicity I can explain simply. The interests of all humans are interlocked, my own included, and politics is no more than a temporal expression of social mathematics.
Chapter 6. 1. This bell has to ring once, and... This bell has to ring once when you push the left-hand button, and twice when you push the right-hand button, the super said, and Florian listened as the problem clicked off against the things he knew. So far, it was easy to wire. But here came the real problem, Florian knew. But you have to fix it so that if you push the left-hand button first, it won't work at all. And if you push the right-hand button twice, it won't work until you push the left-hand button. Speed does matter. So does neatness. Go. Parts and tools were all over the table. Florian collected what he needed. It was not particularly hard. The next job was somebody else's project, and you had to look at the board and tell the instructor what it would do. His fingers were very fast. He could beat the clock. Easy. The next thing was harder. The third thing was always to make up one for somebody else. He had 15 minutes to do that. He told the instructor what it was. "Show me how you'd build that," the instructor said. So he did. And the instructor looked very serious and nodded finally and said, "Florian, you're going to double up on tape." He was disappointed. "I'm sorry, it won't work?" "Of course it'll work," the instructor said and smiled at him. "But I can't give that to anybody on this level. You'll do double study on the basics and we'll see how you do with the next. All right?" "Yes," he said. Of course it was yes. But he was worried. He was working with olders a lot. It was hard and took a lot of time, and they kept insisting he take his rec time when he had rather be at his job. He was already late a lot, and Andy frowned at him and helped him more than he wanted. He thought he ought to talk to the super about all of it, but he made them happy when he worked hard. He could still do it, even if he was tired, even if he fell into his bunk at night and couldn't even remember doing it. The instructor said he could go, and he was late again. Andy told him the pigs didn't understand his schedule, and Andy had had to feed them. "I'll do the water," he said, and did it for Andy's too. That was fair. It made Andy happy. It made Andy so happy, Andy let him curry the horse with him, and go with him to the special barn where they had the baby, which was a she, protected against everything and fed with a bucket you had to hold. It wasn't big enough to do that yet. You had to shower and change your clothes and be very careful, because they were giving the baby treatments they got from the horse. But she wasn't sick. She played dodge with them all. She played dodge with them, and then she would smell of their fingers and played dodge again. He had been terribly relieved when Andy told him that the horses were not for food. "What are they for?" he had asked then, afraid that there might be other bad answers. "They're experimentals," Andy had said. "I'm not sure, but they say they're working animals." Pigs were sometimes working animals. Pigs were so good at smelling out native weeds that drifted in and rooted, and they were so smart at not eating the stuff that there were Azzy who did nothing but walk them around, every day going over the pens and the fields with the pigs that nobody would ever make into bacon, and zapping whatever had sneaked inside the fences. The machine sniffers were good, but Andy said the pigs were better in some ways. That was what they meant in the tapes, Florian thought, when they said one of the first rules of all rules was to find ways to be useful. Ari read the problem, thought into her Ari read the problem, thought into her tape knowing, and asked Maman, "Does it matter how many are boys and how many are girls?" Maman thought a moment. "Actually, it does, but you can work it as if it doesn't." "Why?" "Because, and this is important to know, certain things are less important in certain problems, and when you're just learning how to work the problem, leaving out the things that don't matter as much helps you to remember what things are most, what the blanking blank? Did I skip a bloody line? What?" I got lost. I'm poking around the trees, man. When you're just learning how to work the problem, leaving out the things that don't matter as much helps you to remember what things are the most important in figuring. Okay, whatever. My brain just didn't understand what that was because of a line break or something? I don't know. Seems obvious.
Because, and this is important to know, certain things are less important in certain problems. And when you're just learning how to work the problem, leaving out the things that don't matter as much helps you to remember what things are the most important in figuring it. Everything in the world is important in that problem. Boys and girls, the weather, whether or not they can get enough food, whether there are things that eat them, but right now, just the genes are going to matter. When you can work all those problems, then they'll tell you how to work in all the other things. One other thing, they'd hate to tell you you knew everything. There might be something else no one thought of, and if you thought they'd told you everything, that could trick you. So they start out simple and then start adding in whether they're boys and girls. All right? It does matter, Ari said doggedly, because the boy fish fight each other. But there's going to be 24 blue ones if nobody gets eaten. But they will, because blue ones are easy to see and they can't hide. And if you put them with the big fish there won't be any blue fish at all. Do you know whether a fish sees colours? Do they? Let's leave that for a moment. What if the females like blue males better? Why should they? Just figure it. Carry it another generation. How much better? 25%. All those blue ones are just going to make the big fish fatter and they'll have lots of babies. This is getting complicated. Maman got this funny look like she was going to sneeze or laugh or get mad. And then she got a very funny look that was not funny at all, and gathered her up against her and hugged her. Maman did that a lot lately. Ari thought that she ought to feel happier than she was. She had never had Maman spend so much time with her. Ollie, too. But there was a danger feeling. Maman wasn't happy. Ollie wasn't. Ollie was being Azzy as hard as he could, and Maman and Ollie didn't shout at each other anymore. Maman didn't shout at anybody. Nellie just looked confused a lot of the time. Phaedra went around being Azzy, too. Ari was scared, and she wanted to ask Maman why, but she was afraid Maman would cry. Maman always had that look lately, and it hurt when Maman cried. She just held on to Maman. Next morning she went to play school. She was big enough to go by herself now. Maman hugged her at the door. Ollie came and hugged her too. He had not done that in a long time. She looked back and the door was shut. She thought that was funny, but she went on to school. Three. Rayzune 1 left the runway, and Jane clenched her hands on the leather arms of the seat, and did not look out the window. She did not want to see Rayzune dwindle away. She bit her lips and shut her eyes and felt the leakage down her face while the gentle acceleration pressed her into the seat. She turned her face toward Ollie when they reached cruising altitude. "Ollie, get me a drink. A double." "Yes, Sarah," Ollie said, and unbelted and went to see to it. Phaedra, sitting in front of them, had turned her chair around to face her across the little table. "Can I do something for you, Sarah?" God, she needs to, doesn't she? Phaedra's scared. "I want you to make out a shopping list. Things you think we'll need on ship. You'll have to place some orders when we make station. There's an orientation booklet in the outside pocket. It'll review you on procedures." "Yes, Sarah." That put a patch on Phaedra's problems. Ollie was walking wounded. He had asked her for tape. He had asked her for tape, Azzy to supervisor, and she had refused him. "Ollie," she had said, "you're too much of a CIT. I need you to be. Do you understand what I'm saying?" "Yes," he had said, and held up better than she had. "One for yourself, too," she yelled at him over the engine noise, and he looked around and nodded understanding. "And Phaedra!" Peggy came up to Ollie's side at the bar, wobbled as the plane hit a little chop, and then ducked down and took out a pair of glasses. For Julia, back in the back.
Julia and Gloria.
"You've ruined my life!"
Julia had screamed at her in the terminal, right in front of Dennis, the Azzy, and the family that had come to see them off, while poor Gloria stood there with her chin quivering and her eyes running over. Not a bad kid. A kid who had had too much of most things, too little of what mattered, and who stared at the grandmother she had hardly ever seen, and probably looked for signs of ultimate evil about her person. Gloria had no idea in the world what she was going to. No idea in the world what ship discipline meant or the closed steel world of a working station. "Hello, Gloria," she had said, nerving herself, trying not, God, not ever, to compare the kid against Ari, who might hear a plane take off and might look up and realize it was Rezun 1. Nothing more than that. Gloria had run over to her mother, who was about to hyperventilate, who managed, atop it all, to impart a sense of the ridiculous to their departure. It was probably just as well they were traveling with Rezun security. There was no trusting Julia not to bolt and run in Novgorod. Irrationally afraid of the shuttle, the void, the jumps, all the things that involved a physics Julia had never troubled herself to learn and now decided she could not personally rely on. "Too bad, kid. I wish I could make a bubble for you where things work the way you want. I'm sorry it all overwhelms you." "It did from the moment you were born. Sorry, daughter. I'm really sorry about that. Sorry you're going with me." Ollie brought back the drinks. He was pale, but he was doing quite well, considering. She managed to smile at him when he handed her hers, and he looked at her again when he sat down with his own drink in hand. She had taken half of hers down without noticing it. "It'll be all right," she said, and lifted the glass. "Skål, Ollie. Back where I came from. Going home, finally." And on her second double, "It feels like I was 20 again, Ollie, like nothing of Rezun ever happened." Or she had gotten that part of her numb for a while. "4. Phaedra was not at the play school. Nellie was. Nellie was easy to get around. Sam could push her in the swing really high. Nellie worried, but Nellie wasn't going to stop them because she would be mad at Nellie, and Nellie didn't like that. So Sam pushed her, and she pushed Sam, and they climbed on the puzzle bars. Finally, Jan came after Sam and Nellie was walking... Finally, Jan came after Sam, and Nellie was walking her home when Uncle Dennis met them in the hall. "Nellie," Dennis said, "security wants to talk to you." "Why?" Ari asked. Of a sudden, she was afraid again. Security and Nellie were as far apart as you could think of. It was like everything else recently. It was a thing that didn't belong. "Nellie," Dennis said, "do what I say." "Yes, sir," Nellie said. And Dennis, big as he was, got down on one knee and took Ari's hands while Nellie was going. "Ari," he said, "something serious has happened. Your mama has to go take care of it. She's had to leave." "Where's she going?" "Very far away, Ari. I don't know that she can come back. You're going to come home with me. You and Nellie. Nellie's going to stay with you, but she's got to go take some tape that will make her feel better about it." "My mom can too come back." "I don't think so, Ari. Your maman is an important woman. She has something to do. She's going, well, far as a ship can take her. She knew you'd be upset. She didn't want to worry you. So she said I should tell you goodbye for her. She said you should come home with me now and live in my apartment." "No!" Goodbye. Goodbye was nothing Maman would ever say. Everything was wrong. She pulled away from Dennis's hand and ran as hard as she could, down the halls, through the doors, into their own hall. Dennis couldn't catch her. No one could.
She ran until she got to her door, her place, and she unclipped her keycard from her blouse and she put it in the slot. The door opened. "Mama! Ollie!" She ran through the room. She ran through the rooms, plural even. She hunted everywhere, but she knew Maman and Ollie would never hide from her. Maman and Ollie would never leave her either. Something bad had happened to them. Something terrible had happened to them, and Uncle Dennis was lying to her. Maman's and Ollie's things were all off the dresser and the clothes from the closet. Her toys were all gone, even Pooh Thing and Valerie's star. She was breathing hard. She felt like there was not enough air. She heard the door open again and ran for the living room. "Mama! Ollie!" But it was a security woman who had come in. She was tall and she wore black, and she had got in and she shouldn't have. Ari just stood there and stared at her. The woman stared back. The uniformed woman in her living room who wasn't going to leave. "Minder," Ari said, trying to be brave and grown up, "call Maman's office." The minder did not answer. "Minder, it's Ari. Call Maman's office." "The minder is disconnected," the security woman said. And it was true. The minder hadn't said a thing when she had come in. Everything was wrong. "Where's my mother?" she asked. "Dr. Stressen has left. Your guardian is Dr. Nye. Please be calm, young sirrah. Dr. Nye is on his way." "I don't want him!" But the door opened and Uncle Dennis was there, out of breath and white-faced, in Maman's apartment.
"It's all right," Dennis panted. "Ari, please."
"Get out!" she yelled at Uncle Dennis. "Get out! Get out! Get out!"
Ari, I'm sorry. I'm terribly sorry. Listen to me."
"No, you're not sorry. I want Mama. I want Ollie. Where are they?" Dennis came and tried to take hold of her. She ran for the kitchen. There were knives there. But the security woman dived around the couch and caught her, and picked her up while she kicked and screamed.
"Careful with her," Dennis said. "Be careful. Put her down."
The woman set her feet back on the floor. Dennis came and took her from the woman and held her against his shoulder.
"Cry, Ari. It's all right. Get your breath and cry."
She gasped and finally she could breathe.
"I'm going to take you home now," Dennis said gently and patted her face and shoulders. "Are you all right, Ari? I can't carry you. Do you want the officer to? She won't hurt you. No one's going to hurt you. Or I can call the meds. Do you feel like you want me to do that?"
Take you home was not her home anymore. Something had happened to everyone. Dennis took her hand and she walked. She was too tired to do anything else. She was hardly able to do that. Uncle Dennis took her all the way to his apartment, and he set her down on his couch, and he had his Azzy Sealy get her a soft drink. She drank it, and she could hardly hold the glass without spilling it. She was shaking so.
"Nellie is staying here," Uncle Dennis said to her, sitting down on the other side of the table. "Nellie will be your very own."
"Where's Ollie?" she asked, clenching the glass in her lap.
"With your mamma. She needed him."
Ari gulped air. It was a good thing, she thought, if Maman had to go somewhere. Maman and Ollie ought to be together.
"Phaedra's gone with them," Dennis said.
"I don't care about Phaedra."
"You want Nellie, don't you? Maman left you, Nellie. She wanted Nellie to go on taking care of you."
She nodded. There was a large knot in her throat. Her heart was 10 times too big for her chest. Her eyes stung.
"Ari, I don't know much about taking care of a little girl. Neither does Sealy. But your mamma sent all your things here. You'll have your very own suite, you and Nellie, right in there. Do you want to go see where your room is?"
She shook her head and tried not to cry. She tried to get a good mad, like Mamma.
"We won't talk about it now. Nellie's going to be here tonight. She'll be a little upset. You know she can't take much upset. Promise me you'll be good to her, Ari. She's your Azzy, and you have to be kind to her, because she really ought to stay in the hospital, but she's so worried about you, and I know you need her. Nellie's going to come home every night between her sessions. They're going to give her tape, you know. They have to, because she's terribly upset. But she loves you, and she wants to come to take care of you. I'm afraid it's you who'll have to take care of her. You understand me? You can hurt her very, very badly.
I know, Ari said, because she did.
There you are. You're a brave little girl. You aren't a baby at all. It's very hard, very hard. Thank you, Seelie.
Seelie had brought her a glass of water and a pill, and expected her to take it. Seelie was a nobody. He wasn't like Ollie. He wasn't nice, he wasn't mean, he wasn't anything but Ozzy all the time. And he took her glass and put it on his tray and offered her the water. "I don't want any tape," she said.
"It's not that kind of pill," Uncle Dennis said. "It'll make your head stop hurting. It'll make you feel better."
She didn't remember telling him her head hurt. Mama always said don't take other people's pills. Never, never take Ozzy pills. But Mama was not here to tell her what this one was. Like Valerie. Like Cherryh Schwartz. Like all the disappeareds. Mama and Ollie had gotten caught too. Maybe I can disappear next and find them. "Cherryh," Seelie said, "please." She took the pill off the tray. She put it in her mouth and drank it down with the water. "Thank you," Seelie said. He was so smooth he wasn't there. He took the glass away. You would never notice Seelie. Uncle Dennis sat there so fat he made the whole chair go down, with his arms on his knees and his round face upset and worried.
"You won't have to go to play school for a few days, until you want to. You don't think you can feel better. I know, but you will. You'll feel better even tomorrow. You'll miss your mama, of course you will, but you won't hurt as much. Every day will be a little better."
She didn't want it to be better. She didn't know who had made people disappear. But it wasn't Mama. They could offer her whatever they wanted. It wouldn't make her believe what they said. Mama and Ollie had known there was trouble. They had been terribly upset and kept hiding it from her. Maybe they thought they could take care of it, and they couldn't. She had felt it coming and hadn't understood. Perhaps there was a place people went to. Perhaps it was like being dead. You got in trouble and you got disappeared somewhere in some way. Even Maman couldn't stop it happening. So she knew she couldn't either. She had to push and push, that was what, and get in trouble until there wasn't anybody. Maybe it was her fault. Maybe it was her fault. She had always thought so. But when they ran out of people to disappear, she had to find out what was going on. Then maybe she could go. She was wrong of a sudden. She couldn't feel her hands or her feet, and she felt a burning in her stomach. She was having trouble. But Seelie picked her up in his arms, and the whole room swung and became the hall and became the bedroom. Seelie laid her gently on the bed and took her shoes off and put a blanket over her. Pooh Thing was beside her on the bedspread. She put her hand out and touched him. She could not remember where she had gotten Pooh Thing. He had always been there. Now he was here. That was all. Now Pooh Thing was all there was. "5. "Poor kid," Justin said, and poured more wine into the glass. "Poor little kid. Damn it to hell. Couldn't they let her come down to the airport?" Grant just shook his head, and drank his own wine. He made a tiny hand sign that warned of eavesdroppers. Justin wiped his eyes. He never forgot that. Sometimes he found it hard to care. "Not our problem," Grant said.
not yours.
I know it.
That for the listeners. That they never knew, one way or the other, whether they were there. They thought of ways to confound security, even thought of devising a language without cognates, with erratic grammar, and using tape to memorize it. But they were afraid of the suspicion their using it might raise. So they went the simplest route, the tablet. He reached for it and scrawled, "Sometimes I'd like to run off to Novgorod and get a job in a factory. We design tape to make normal people. We build in trust and confidence and make them love each other. But the designers are all crazy." Grant wrote, "I have profound faith in my creators and my supervisor. I find comfort in that."
"You're sick," Justin said aloud.
Grant laughed. And Grant went serious again and leaned over and took hold of Justin's knee, the two of them sitting cross-legged on the couch. "I don't understand good and evil. I've decided that. And Azzy has no business tossing words like that around in the cosmic sense. But to me, you're everything good."
He was touched by that, and the damned tape flashes still bothered him, even after this many years, like an old, old pain. With Grant, it never mattered. That, as much as anything, gave him a sense of comfort. He laid his hand on Grant's, pressed it slightly, because he could not say anything.
"I mean it," Grant said. "You hold a difficult place. You do as much good as you can. Sometimes too much. Even I can rest. You should."
"What can I do when Yanni loads me down with—"
"No." Grant shook at his knee. "You can say no. You can quit working these hours. You can work on the things you want to work on. You've said yourself, you know what he's doing. Don't let them give you this other thing. Refuse it. You don't need it." There was a baby in process on Fargon, replicate of one Benjamin Rubin, who lived in the enclave on the other side of an uncrossable wall, and worked in a lab Raziun had provided. It provided something visible for defense to hover over, and Jane Strassen, when she arrived, would find herself mother to another of the project's children. He knew. They gave him Rubin's interviews. They let him do the tape structures. He had no illusions they would run them without checks. Not, at least, these. And that was a relief after running without them for a year.
"It's a degree of trust, isn't it?"
His voice came out hoarse, showing the strain he had not wanted to show. "It puts another kind of load on you, a load you don't need."
"Maybe it's my chance to do something worthwhile. It's a major project. Isn't it? It's the best thing that's happened in a long time. Maybe I can make Rubin's life better or something."
He leaned forward to pour more wine. Grant moved and did it for him. "At least Rubin had some compassion in his life. His mother lives on station. He sees her. He's got something to hold on to." Give or take the guards that attended a special. Justin knew all these things. A confused, remote intellectual whose early health problems had been extreme, whose attachment to his mother was excessive and desperate, whose frail body had made health a preoccupation for him, whose various preoccupations had excluded adolescent passions, except for his work. But nothing of what had shaped Ariane Emory.
Thank God. "I can do something with it," he said. "I'm going to take some work in citizen psych. Do me some good. It's a different methodology."
Grant frowned at him. They could talk work at home without worrying about monitors, but their line of conversation had gotten dangerous, maybe already gone over the line. He was not sure anymore. He was exhausted. Study, he thought, would take him off real-time work. Study was all he wanted. Grant was right. He was never cut out for troubleshooting real-time situations. He cared too damn much. Yanni had yelled at him, "Empathy is fine in an interview. It's got no place in the solution. Get it straight in your head who you're treating." Which made sense to him. He was not cut out for clinical psych, because he never could get it straight when he felt the pain himself. By Yanni's lights, even, he thought, by Dennis's, because there was no way this could have come to him without Dennis working at Gerard. It was the most generous thing they could have done for him, putting him back in work that took a security clearance, re-establish his career in a slightly different field, in work very like Jordan's, let him work on a project where he could gain some reputation. CIT work was something the military would notice without actually giving the military an excuse to move on him, and it might clear him, and do some good for Jordan. That was at least a possibility. It was a kind of ultimatum, he thought, a kindness that could go entirely the other way if he tried to avoid the honor. That was always what he had to think about, even when they were doing him favors. Six. Ari woke with someone close to her, and remembered waking halfway through the night when someone got into bed with her, and took her in her arms, and said in Nellie's voice, "I'm here, young sirrah. Nellie's here." Nellie was by her in the morning, and Mamma was not. The bedroom was strange. It was Uncle Dennis's place, and Ari wanted to scream or to cry or to run again, run and run, until no one could find her. But she lay still, because she knew Maman was truly gone. And Uncle Dennis was right. She was better than she was. She was thinking about breakfast in between thinking how much she hurt and how she wished Nellie was somewhere else and Maman was there instead. It was still something to have Nellie. She patted Nellie's face hard until Nellie woke up, and Nellie hugged her and stroked her hair and said, "Nellie's here, Nellie's here," and burst into tears. Ari held her, and felt cheated because she wanted to cry, but Nellie was Ozzy, and crying upset her. So she was sensible like Mamma said, and told Nellie to behave. Nellie did. Nellie stopped snuffling and sniveling and got up and got dressed, and gave Ari her bath and washed her hair and dressed her in her clean blue plant. Her clean blue plants.
Yeah, they're orchids, aren't they?
Nellie did. Nellie stopped snuffling and sniveling and got up and got dressed, and gave Ari her bath and washed her hair and dressed her in her clean blue pants and a sweater, and combed her hair till it crackled.
"We're supposed to go to breakfast with Sir Nye,"
Nellie said. That was all right. And it was a good breakfast at Uncle Dennis's table, with everything in the world to eat. Ari did eat. Uncle Dennis had seconds of everything and told her she and Nellie could spend the day in the apartment until Nellie had to go to hospital, and then Seely would come and take care of her.
"Yes, sir,"
Ari said. Anything was all right. Nothing was. After yesterday, she didn't care who was here. She wanted to ask Dennis where Maman was and where Maman was going. But she didn't, because everything was all right for a while and she was so tired. And if Dennis told her, she wouldn't know the name of that place. She only knew Rezun. So she sat and let Nellie read her stories. Sometimes she cried for no reason. Sometimes she wept. Sometimes she slept. When she woke up, it was Nellie telling her it would be Seely with her. Seely would get her as many soft drinks as she wanted, and put on the vid for her, and do anything she asked. She asked Seely could they go for a walk and feed the fish. They did that. They came back, and Seely got her more soft drinks, and she wished she could hear Maman telling her they weren't good for her. So she stopped on her own, and asked Seely for paper, and sat and drew things. Till Uncle Dennis came back, and it was time for supper, and Uncle Dennis talked to her about what she would do tomorrow, and how he would buy her anything she wanted. She thought of several things. She wanted a spaceship with lights. She wanted a new coat. If Uncle Dennis was going to offer, she could think of things. She could think of really expensive things that Maman never would get her. But none of them could make her happy. Not even Nellie. Just when they were going to give you things, you took them, that was all. And you asked them for lots and lots to make it hard for them, and make them think that was important to you, and you were happier with them.
but you didn't forget you're mad. Ever. 7. Grant sweated, waiting in Yanni Schwartz's outer office, with no appointment and only Marge's good offices to get him through the door. He heard Yanni shouting at Marge. He could not hear what he said. He imagined it had to do with interruptions and Justin Warwick. And for a very little he would have gotten up and left, then, fast, because from moment to moment he knew he could bring trouble down on Justin by coming here. He was not sure that Yanni would not shake him badly enough to make him say something he ought not. Yanni was the kind of born man he did not like to deal with, emotional and loud and radiating threat in every move he made. The men who had taken him to the shack in the hills had been like that. Gerard had been like that when he had questioned him. Grant had sat there waiting and not panicking, only by blanking himself and not thinking through again, until Marge came back. And not thinking it through again, until Marge came back and said, "He'll see you." He got up and made a little bow. "Thank you, Marge," and walked into the inner office and up to the big desk and said, "Sir, I want to talk to you about my CIT." Azzy-like. Justin and Yanni could be decent enough to his patients. So he took the manner and stood very quietly. "I'm not in consultation," Yanni said. Yanni gave him no favors then. Grant dropped the dumb Annie pose, pulled up the available chair, and sat down. "I still want to talk to you, sir. Justin's taking the favor you're doing him, and I think it's a bad mistake." "A mistake?" You're not going to let him have anything but the first draft work. Are you? And where does that leave him after 20 years? Nowhere. With no more than he had before. Training, which he badly needs, which you should know. Do we have to discuss your partner? You know his problems. I don't have to haul them out for you. Tell me what you think they are. Yanni had been relaxed, mostly. The jaw clamped, the chin jutted, the whole pose shifted to aggression as he leaned on his desk. "Maybe you'd better have your CIT come talk to me. Did he send you, or is this your own idea?" "My own, sir." He was reacting, damn it. His palms were sweating. He hated that. The trick was to make the CIT calm down instead. "I'm scared of you. I don't want to do this. But Justin won't talk to you. At least he won't tell you the truth." "Why not?" The man had no quiet mode. "Because, sir..." Grant took a breath and tried not to pay attention to what was going on in his gut. "You're the only teacher he has. If you discard him, there's no one else good enough to teach him. You're like his super. He has to rely on you, and you're abusing him. That's very hard for me to watch." "We're not talking Azzy psych, Grant. You don't understand what's going on, not on an operational level, and you're on dangerous personal ground. It's your own mindset I'm talking about. Don't identify. You know better. If you don't..." "Yes, sir, you can recommend I take tape. I know what you can do. But I want you to listen to me. Listen. I don't know what kind of man you are, but I've seen what you've done. I think you may be trying to help Justin. In some way, I think it has helped. But he can't go on working the way he is." Yanni gave a growl like an engine dying and slowly leaned back on the arm of his chair, looking at him from under his brows. "Because he's not suited to real-time work. I know it. You know it. Justin knows it. I thought maybe he'd calm down. That was a period, not a comma. Damn it. Because he's not suited to real-time work. I know it. You know it. Justin knows it. I thought maybe he'd calm down, but he hasn't got the temperament for it. He can't get the perspective. He hasn't got the patience for standard design work. Repetition drives him crazy. He's creative, so we put him in on the Rubin project. Dennis got him that. I seconded it. It's the best damn thing we can do for him. Put him where he can do theoretical work, but not that damn out-there project of his, and he won't concentrate on anything else. I know damn well he won't. He's worse than Jordan with an idea in his head. He won't turn it loose till it stinks. Have you got an answer?
Because it's either the Rubin project or it's rot away in standard design, and I haven't got time on my staff to let one of my people take 3 weeks doing a project that should have been booted out the door in 3 days. You understand me?
He had thought down till then that Yanni was the enemy, but of a sudden he felt easier with Yanni. He saw a decent man who was not good at listening, who was listening for the moment. Sir, please, Justin's not Jordan. He doesn't work like Jordan. But if you give him a chance, he is working. Listen to me, please. You don't agree with him, but he's learning from you. You know that an ASI designer has an edge in applications. I'm an alpha. I can take a design and internalize it and tell a hell of a lot about it. I've worked with him on his own designs, and I can tell you I believe in what he's trying to do.
God, that's all I need.
Sir, I know what his designs feel like in a way no CIT can. I have the logic system.
I'm not talking about his ability. He's fixed his rat on a treadmill problems. He's got that covered. I'm talking about what happens when his sets integrate into CIT psych. 2nd and 3rd and 4th generation. We don't want a work-crazy population. We don't want gray little people that go crazy when they're not on the assembly line. We don't want a suicide rate through the overhead when there's no job failure or a dip. Oh, Jesus. We don't want a suicide rate through the overhead when there's job failure or a dip in the economy. We're talking CIT psych, and that's exactly the field he's weakest in and exactly what I think he ought to go study for 10 or 20 years before he does some real harm. You know what it feels like. Let me tell you, I know something about SIT psych from the inside, plus 60 years in this field, and I trust a junior designer can appreciate that fact.
I respect that, sir. I earnestly assure you, so does he. But his designs put joy into a psych set, not just efficiency. The designs you say will cause trouble are their own reward tape. Isn't it true, sir, that when an ASI has a SIT child, and he teaches that child as a SIT, he teaches interpretively what he understands out of his psych set? And an ASI with one of Justin's small routines somewhere in his sets, even if he was never as lucky as I am, to be socialized as I am, to be alpha and to have one lifelong partner, would get so much sense of purpose out of that, so much sense of purpose, he would think about his job and get better at it. And have pride in that, sir. Maybe there are still some problems in it, but it's the emotional level he reaches. It's the key to the logic sets themselves. It's a self-programming interaction. That's what no one is taking into account.
Which create a whole complex of basic structural problems in synthetic psych sets. Let's talk theory here. You're a competent designer. Let's be real blunt. They tried this 80 years ago.
I'm familiar with that.
And they hung a few embellishments onto the psych sets, and they ended up with neuroses, obsessive behaviors.
You say yourself he's avoided that.
And it's self-programming. Do you hear yourself talking?
Worm, Grant said, but a benign one.
That's just about where that kind of theory belongs. Worm. God, if it is self-programming, you have created a worm of sorts, and you're playing with people's lives. If it isn't, you've got a delayed action problem that's going to crop up in the 2nd or 3rd generation. Another kind of worm, if you want to put it that way. Hell, if I want to give research time to it. I've got a budget. You two are on my departmental budget, and you're a hell of an expense with no damn return that justifies it.
We have justified it this last year.
Which is killing Warwick. Isn't that your complaint? He can't go on outputting at that level. He can't take it. Psychologically, he can't take it. So what are you going to do? Carry it by yourself while Justin lives in the clouds somewhere designing sets that won't work, that I'm damned well not going to let him install in some poor sod of a tester? No!
I'll do the work. Give him the freedom. Lighten the load. A little. Sir, give him a chance. He has to rely on you. No one else can help him. He is good. You know he is.
And he's damn well wasting himself.
What were you doing at the start? Teaching him while you took his designs apart. Do that for him.
Lighten the load a little. The work will get done. You just can't pressure him like that because he'll do it if he thinks someone is suffering. He just won't stop. He's like that. Give us things we can handle, and we'll handle them. Justin has a talent at integration that can get more out of a genotype than anyone ever did, because he does get into the emotional level. Maybe his ideas won't work, but for God's sake, he's still studying. You don't know what he can be. Give him a chance. Yanni looked at him a long time, upset, unhappy, with his face red and his teeth working at his lip. You're quite a salesman, son. You know what's the matter with him on this? Ari got hold of a vulnerable kid with an idea that was real advanced for a 17-year-old. She flattered hell out of him, she fed him full of this crap, and psyched him right into her bed. You're aware of that? Yes, sir. I'm well aware of it. She did a real job on him. He thinks he was brilliant. He thinks there was more there than there was, and you don't do him any service by feeding that. He's bright. He's not brilliant. He'd be damn good on the Rubin project. I've seen what he can do, and there is a lot in him. I respect the hell out of that. I don't like to feed a delusion. I spend my life trying to make normal people, and you're asking me to humor him in the biggest delusion of his poor fucked up life. I hate that like hell, Grant. I can't tell you how much I hate it. I'm talking to a man who's the nearest thing to a supervisor Justin's got. The man Justin fought to get to help him, who's going to take a talent that's been fucked up and kill it because it's a drain on the teacher. What kind of man is that? Damn it. Yes, sir. Damn me all you like. It's Justin I'm talking about. He trusts you and he doesn't trust many people. Are you going to damn him because he's trying to do something you think will fail? Yanni chewed on his lip. You're one of Ari's, aren't you? You know I am, sir. Damn, she did good work. You remind me what she was, after all that's happened. Yes, sir. It stung. He thought that it was meant to. But Yanni gave a great sigh and shook his head. I'll do this. I'll put him on the project. I'll keep the work light. Which means, damn it, that you're going to carry some of it. Yes, sir. And if he does his damn designs, I'll rip him apart and teach him what I can. Everything I can. Has he got problems with it? Has he got his problems with tape solved? He has no problems with tape, sir. If you were in the room with him, that's what Petros says. That's so, sir. Can you blame him? No, I can't. I'll tell you, Grant, I respect what you're doing. I'd like to have a dozen of you. Unfortunately, you're not a production item. No, sir. Justin, as much as Ari and Jordan, had a hand in my psych sets. But you're welcome to analyze them. Stable as hell. Good. Good for you. Yanni got up and came around the desk as Grant got up in confusion. And Yanni put his hand on his shoulder and took his hand. Grant, come back to me if you think he can't handle things. That affected him, when before he doubted everything about this man's goodwill. Yes, sir, he said, thinking that if Yanni was telling the truth, and if there was anything of himself he could give that Yanni could not have out of library and lab, he would give it. Freely. Out, Yanni said brusquely. Go. Azzy-like, simple, equal to equal. When he knew that Yanni was upset about Strassen, and about everything that was going on, and it had been the worst of times to go to him. He went, with a simplicity of courtesies he had not felt with anyone but Justin and Jordan, since he was very young. And with an anguish over what he might have done in his presumption, adding stress to what he knew was a delicate tolerance for Justin in the house, at a delicate time and a delicate balance in Justin's own mind. He had not known, from the time he determined to go to Yanni, whether Justin would forgive him, or whether he would deserve forgiveness. So that was where he had to go first. You did what? Justin cried from the gut, and felt a double blow because Grant reacted as if he had hit him, flinched and turned his face and turned it back again, to look at him helplessly, without any of Grant's accustomed defenses. That took the wind out of him. There was no way to shout at Grant. Sorry, one sec. It's crazy. I do not live in the city, but God forbid I open my window for some fresh air finally when it's warm. Here we go. That took the wind out of him. There was no way to shout at Grant. Grant had acted because Grant had been forced into a caretaker role by his behavior. That was what his knowledge of Ozzy told him. And he had misread that, an Alpha supervisor's worst mistake, and leaned on Grant for years in ways that, God help him, he had needed. Grant going Ozzy on him was his fault, no one else's. Nope, that's just gonna get louder. It's all on fire. Grant going Ozzy on him was his fault, no one else's. He reached out and patted Grant's shoulder and calmed himself down as much as he could, while he was shocked, full of adrenaline, and could hardly breathe, as much from what he had done to Grant as from the fact that Grant might well have damned him. So, that was not Grant's fault. Everything would be all right if Grant had not exposed himself to Gerard's attention again. Just go back to Yanni and try to recover things without the emotionalism that would finish the job in Yanni's eyes. I misemphasized that. Just go back to Yanni and try to recover things without the emotionalism that would finish the job in Yanni's eyes. He just wanted to sit down a moment, but he could not even do that without letting Grant know how badly he was upset. Yanni wasn't mad, Grant pleaded with him. Justin, he wasn't mad. It wasn't like that. He just said he would lighten up. He gave Grant a second pat on the arm. Look, I'm sure it's all right. If it isn't, I'll fix it. Don't worry about it. Justin? There was pain in Grant's voice. His making, just like the crisis. Yanni's gonna have my guts for shoving you in there, Justin said. He ought to. Grant, you don't have to go around me. I'm all right. Don't worry. Stop it, damn it! Grant grabbed him and spun him around, hard, face to face with him. Don't go supervisor on me. I knew what I was doing. He just stared in shock. I'm not some dumb Annie, Justin. You can hit me if you like. Just don't pull that calm down routine on me. Anger. Outright anger. It shocked hell out of him. It was rescue when he thought there was none. He was shaking when Grant let go his arm and put his hand on the side of his face. God, Justin, what do you think? I put too much on you. No, they put too much on you. And I told Yanni that. I'm not plastic. I know what I'm doing. What have you been doing all these years? I used to be your partner. What do you think I've gotten to be? One of the psych cases you deal with? Or what do you think I am? Ozzy was the obvious answer. I'm not going to keep talking over that. I'm going to give it one more truck, and then I'm just going to shut the window. It'll help a little. Where were we? Right. Ozzy, or what do you think I am? Ozzy was the obvious answer. Grant challenged him to it, and he froze up inside. Dumb Annie, huh? Cut it, Grant. Well, maybe. He got his breath and turned away. Maybe it's pride. Maybe I've been taught all my life to think I'm the stronger one, and I know I've been fractured for years, and leaning on you. Hell if I don't feel guilty about that. Different kind of pressure, Grant said. Mine can't come from anywhere but you. Don't you know that, born man?
Well, I sure as hell pushed you into Yanni's office.
Give me a chance, friend. I'm not a damn robot. Maybe my feelings are plastic, but they're sure as hell real. You want to yell at me, yell. Don't pull that supervisor crap.
Then don't act like a damn assy!
He could not believe he had said that. He stood there in shock. So did Grant for a moment, with that hanging in the air between them. Well, I am, Grant said then, with a little shrug, but I'm not guilty about it. How about you?
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. Damn assy all you like. I'd rather that than watch you bottle it up. You work till you're dropping, you're eating your gut out, and one more aberrant assy psych set is going to push you over the edge. So damn assy all you like. I'm glad you've gotten self-protective. It's about time.
God, don't psychoanalyze me.
Sorry, can't help that. Thank God I only have one born man to worry about. 2 would drive me to the wards. So damn born men, too. They cause a hell of a lot of trouble. You were right about Yanni. He's quite reasonable with Ozzy. It's other born men he pours it out on, everything he stores up. Question is whether he was telling me the truth. But if you'll calm down and listen to me, nothing about the fact you can't handle real time is news to him. I only pointed out you were wasted in the Rubin project, and that if he wanted motivated work, he'd do well to put up with your doing design in your spare time, which you're damn well do. I don't think I was at all unreasonable. Eavesdroppers, Justin thought with a jolt, and sorted back wildly to remember what they had said. He signed Grant to be careful, and Grant nodded. I'm sorry, Justin said then, calmer, and wishing he could find a dark place to hide him. But Grant was doing all right. Grant was holding up fine, with a dignity he could not manage.
Grant, I just react to things. Flux thinking. You've got to understand.
Hey, Grant said, I don't understand. I marvel at it. The number of levels you can react on is really amazing. The number of things you can believe at one time is incredible. I don't understand it. I'm going to spend days figuring that reaction, and I'll probably still miss nuances.
Real simple. I'm scared as all hell. I thought I knew where things were, and all of a sudden even you went sideways on me. So everything shifted to polar opposite values. Born men are real logical.
God, life would be so dull if there weren't born men. Now I wonder which pole Yanni was at while I was talking to him. That's enough to worry hell out of you.
Was he calm?
Very.
Then you got the main set, didn't you?
We just have to learn not to agitate you people. I think they ought to put that in the beginning tape sets. Excited born men go to alternate programming sets. Every born man is skits, and he hates his alter ego. That's the whole key to sit behavior.
You're not far wrong.
Hell, I've been endocrine learning for years. I'm really amazed. I went right over to it. Dual and triple opinions, the whole thing. I must say I prefer my natural psych set. My natural psych set, thank you. A lot easier on the stomach. Do you want to go to lunch? He looked at Grant with the shields up again, with that slight, mocking smile that was Grant's way of defying fate, the universe, and Rezun administration. For a moment he felt both fortunate and terrified. As if for the first time everything that had been going away from him had stopped and trembled on the edge of reversing itself.
Sure, he said. Sure.
He caught Grant's arm and steered him out the door.
If you could make headway with Yanni Schwartz, you could hire out by the hour. Probably everybody in the wing could use your services.
No. I'm in regular employment, thanks. People were staring. He dropped Grant's arm, and realized half the wing must have heard him shouting at Grant, and was looking for signs of damage. They were a source of gossip for a whole host of reasons. And now there was a new one. That would get back to Yanni, too.
8. There were new things all the time. Nellie took Ari to the store in the north wing, and they came back with packages. That was fun. She bought Nellie things too, and Nellie was so happy it made her feel good to see... And Nellie was so happy it made her feel good to see Nellie with a new suit and looking pretty and so proud. But Nellie was not Mama. She liked it at first when Nellie put her arms around her, but Nellie always was Nellie, that was all, and all at once one night she felt so empty when Nellie did that. She didn't tell Nellie because Nellie was telling her a story, but after that it was harder and harder to put up with Nellie holding her when Mama was gone. So she fidgeted down and sat on the floor for her stories, which Nellie seemed to think was all right. Seelie was just nobody. She teased Seelie sometimes, but Seelie never laughed, and that felt awful. So she left Seelie alone, except when she asked him for a soft drink or a cookie, which she got more of than Maman would like. So she tried to be good and not to ask, and to eat vegetables and not have so much sugar. "It's not good for you," Maman would say, and anything Mama said was something she tried to remember and keep doing, because everything of Maman's she forgot was like forgetting Mama. So she ate the damn vegetables and got a lump in her throat because some of them tasted awful, all messed up with white creamy stuff. Ugh, they made her want to throw up. But she did it because of Mama, and it made her so sad and so mad at the same time she felt like crying. But if she did cry, she went to her room and shut the door, and wiped her eyes and washed her face before she came out again, because she was not going to snivel. She wanted somebody to play with, but she didn't want it to be Sam. Sam knew her too well. Sam would know about her Mama. And she would beat his face in because she couldn't stand him looking at her with his face that never showed anything. So when Nellie asked did she want to go back to play school, she said all right if Sam wasn't there.
"I don't know who there is then," Nellie said. "Then I'll go by myself," she said. Let's go do the gym, all right?"
So Nellie took her, and they fed the fish, and she played in the sandbox, but the sandbox was no fun by herself, and Nellie was not good at making buildings. So they just fed the fish and took walks and played on the playground and in the gym. There was tape study, and a lot of the grown-ups did lessons with her. She learned a lot of things. She lay there in her bed at night with her head so full of new things she had trouble thinking of Mama and Ollie. Uncle Dennis was right. It hurt less day by day. That was the thing that scared her, because if it didn't hurt, the mad was harder to keep. So she bit her lip till it hurt and tried to keep it that way. There was a children's party. She saw Amy there. Amy ran and got behind Sarah Peterson and acted like a baby. She remembered why she had wanted to hit Amy. The rest of the kids just stared at her a lot, and Sarah Peterson told them they had to play with her. They weren't happy about it. She could tell. There was Kate and Tommy and a kid named Pat, and Amy, who cried and snuffled over in the corner. Sam was there, too. Sam came out from the others and said, "Hello, Ari." Sam was the only friendly one. So she said, "Hello, Sam," and wished she could go home, but Nellie had gone in the kitchen to have tea with Sarah Peterson's Azzy, and Nellie was having a good time. So she went over and sat down and played their game, which was a dice game, and you moved around a board, which was Union Space. You got money. All right. She played it, and everybody got to arguing and laughing and teasing each other again. Except Amy. Except they teased each other and not her. But that was all right. She learned their game. She started getting money. Sam was the luckiest one with the dice, but Sam was too careful with money. But Sam was too careful with his money, and Tommy was too reckless.
"I'll sell you a station," she said, and Amy bought it for most of what Amy had. So Amy charged a lot, and Ari just charged less. And what Amy had bought was off at the edge anyway. So Ari got more money, and Amy got mad. And nobody wanted to trade for Amy's station, but Ari offered to buy it back, not for what Amy wanted it for it.
So Amy took it and bought ships, and Ari raised her prices a little. Amy sniveled, and pretty soon she was in trouble again because Ari kept beating her by using her money to buy up cargoes and keeping a surplus of the only things Amy could get because stupid Amy kept coming to her stations instead of sticking to Tommy's. Amy wanted a fight. Amy got a fight. But she didn't want Amy to lose real soon and ruin the game, so she told Amy what she ought to do. Amy got real mad then, and sniveled some more. She didn't take the advice either. So Ari got her in trouble and took all but one of her ships, then the last one. By that time she had a way to win. But everybody else was looking unhappy, and nobody was teasing anybody, except Amy left the table crying. Nobody said anything. They all looked at Amy. They all looked at her like they wanted not to be there. She was going to win. Except Sam didn't know it. So she said, "Sam, you can have my pieces." And she went and got Nellie in the kitchen and said she wanted to go home. Nellie looked worried then, and stopped having fun with Corey, and they went home. She moped around the rest of the day, being lonely. And mad, which was fine. She thought of Mama then, and missed Ollie, even Phaedra. And what if Valerie had been there? And thought that if Valerie had been there, he would not have been so stupid. "What's the matter?" Uncle Dennis asked that evening. He was very kind about it. "Ari, dear, what happened at the party? What did they do?" She could disappear them all if she said they had a fight. Maybe they would anyway. She wasn't sure. At least Amy and Kate were still around, even if they were stupid.
Uncle Dennis, where did Valerie go?
Valerie Schwartz. His mamma got transferred. They moved, that's all. You still remember Valerie?
Can he come back?
I don't know, dear. I don't think so. His mamma has a job to do. What happened at the party?
I just got bored. They're not much fun. Where did Mamma and Ollie go? What station?
To Fraggoth.
I'm going to send Mamma and Ollie a letter.
She had seen mail in Mamma's office. She had never thought of doing that. But she thought that would get to Mamma's office at the other place, at Fraggoth.
All right. I'm sure they'd like that.
Sometimes she thought Mamma and Ollie weren't really anywhere, but Uncle Dennis talked like they were, and they were all right. That made her feel better, but it made her wonder why Mamma never even called on the phone.
Can you call Fraggoth?
No, Uncle Dennis said. It's faster for a ship to go. A letter gets there much faster than a phone call. In months, not years.
Why?
You say hello, and it takes 20 years to get there. And they say hello, and it takes 20 years to get here. And then you say your first sentence, and they don't hear it for years. You could take hundreds of years having a conversation. That's why letters are faster, and a whole lot cheaper. And they don't use phones and radios between any two stars. Ships carry everything, because ships go faster than light. There are more complications to the question, but that's more than you really want to know to get a message to your mamma. It's just a long way, and a letter is the way you do things.
She had never understood how far could be. Not when they were jumping ships around the board. She felt cold and lonely then, and she went to her room and wrote the letter. She kept tearing it up because she didn't want to make Mamma worry about her being miserable. She didn't want to say,
Mamma, the kids don't like me, and I'm lonely all the time.
She said,
I miss you a lot. I miss Ollie. I'm not mad at Phaedra anymore. I want you and Ollie to come back. Phaedra too. I'll be good. Uncle Dennis gives me too many cookies, but I remember what you said and I don't eat too much. I don't want to be fat. I don't want to be hyper either. Nellie is very good to me. Uncle Dennis gives me his credit card and I buy Nellie lots of things. I bought a spaceship and a car and puzzles and story tapes, and a red and white blouse and red boots. I wanted a black one, but Nellie says that's for Azzy until I'm older. Little girls don't wear black, Nellie says. I could too, but sometimes I do what Nellie says. I mind everybody. I saw Amy Carnath today and I didn't hit her. She still snivels. I study a lot of tapes. I can do math and I can do chemistry. I can do geography and astrography. It is astrography. I can do geography and astrography, and I'm going to study about Fargon because you're there. I want to go to Fargon if you can't come here. Are there any kids there? Have you got a nice place? Tell Uncle Dennis. Or tell Uncle Dennis I can come. Or you come home. I'll be very good. I love you. I love Ollie. I'm going to give this to Uncle Dennis to send to you. He says it takes a long time to get there, and your letter will take a long time to get to me, so please write to me as soon as you can. I think it will be almost a year. By then I will be 8. If you tell Dennis to let me come real soon, I guess I will be almost 9. Tell him I can bring Nellie, too. She'll be scared, but I'll tell her it's all right. I'm not afraid of jumps. I'm not afraid to come by myself. I do a lot of things by myself now. Uncle Dennis doesn't care. I know he would let me come if you said yes. I love you.
And I am going to have to call it there a bit early. I apologize. The next one we do will be a bit short as well. It's the way the book is broken up and the available time I have. I apologize. I will get next week's schedule up on the Discord presently.
You can absolutely request other books. Let me real quick find. Let me find you a link here. Sorry about that. I realized I muted myself. There's a link. You can get it from ABE Books, which is my go-to, even though I think they might have been bought out by Amazon at long last. At any rate, that has the ISBN and all, so you can use that to find a copy. I'm pretty sure that's the same as my edition. Let me just double-check here. Does it say how many pages? 95 is the right date. Does not tell how many pages, but that should be it. Right there. I do highly recommend it. I'm a big fan. I may have read something else by C.J. Cherryh on my own time before I had read Cyteen, but I think of Cyteen as my first formal introduction to C.J. Cherryh as an author. And she did a lot. Like, there aren't too many books where I'm like, this would make a very good movie or TV series. Cyteen is one of them. This would make a phenomenal series. I kind of wish it would get made, and then the rest of me is like, no. Somehow it would get mangled or otherwise corrupted. And I'm like, I can visualize so much of it so easily. It's very well done. Here we go. No, it doesn't give the page number, but that should be the right ISBN, I'm pretty sure. That's probably it. I know there's like some nearly new editions that are like $20 or so, which is about right given its size. I will take care of myself. Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you for tuning in, and I hope you enjoyed. This particular book is near and dear to my heart. It's not coming out quite as perfectly as I would have hoped, partly because C.J. Cherryh is not an easy author to read aloud because of the way her cadence works, but the ideas contained therein and the characters are great. It's just good stuff. Very near and dear to me. So yeah, I've got a scooch. I want to say I have Monday free? I don't know yet for sure. I believe I do. Let me double check here. I have to get this posted to the Discord. Here we go. For anyone wondering how to communicate with me, you can do so in the comments, or you can join the Discord. I don't do socials. These social network things. I do not have a Twitter, for instance. I do not have a Facebook, Meta, whatever we're calling it today, for instance. Oh, I get the hat trick. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday next week. So I'll get that posted on the Discord. Yeah. So that's the dealio. We'll wrap up this chapter on Monday then, and yeah, good stuff. It's rolling along. We're, I think, a third of the way through. A bit better than that. Close to halfway. There's a lot of book. It's a lot of book. It was Cyteen was originally released in 3 volumes, as evidenced by the cover art that I have. What is it? The Betrayal, the Rebirth, and the Vindication, I think it is. Oh wow! Someone has a signed edition of the first volume in hardcover? Oof. Or is that the whole thing? Oh, that's the original hardcover. Ooh. I am not spending $125 on it, even though it's signed. Oh well. Still, food for some thought. Good times, however. Anyway, I will see you all later in the week. Well, next week, whatever. Yep. Hope people enjoyed. I know I'm enjoying myself. I'm having the time of my life. This is one of the books I'd been hoping to get to initially. When I started doing these reading streams, I was like, eventually we're going to do Cyteen. It was high on my list, and it's taken, about 6 years to get there. So, but we get there eventually. I got a bunch of interesting stuff lined up for this year, I think. I'm playing it mostly by year. I've got a couple things that I want to do for sure, but other than that, I'm leaving myself open. Probably not going to do any lengthy series. He says, after doing a duology and now a kind of trilogy and its sequel this year alone, but mostly individual novels is what I'm trying to gun for this year, and then we'll probably go back to doing series next year, having at least one series in. God knows, I've got enough of those floating around. I do want to get around to doing the rest of the Legend of the Condor Heroes, wuxia series, Kung Fu series, the novel series, which so many movies are based on. Very fundamental stuff. Definitely want to get around to that this year, at some point in the near future. I don't know if I'll get around to it this year, but I mean, considering I've banged out Hyperion and Endymion, I think that's pretty good. That's like stream goals or something. I don't know, reading goals. Probably do some culture novels as well by Ian M. Banks. Probably do a couple of those. And there's always more C.J. Cherryh. She's a fairly prolific author. I don't think she's done much lately. I think she had from what I understand, she had a cancer scare, but she's still kicking. Still kicking around. Peter Watts. Let's see if there's anything new and interesting in his blogosphere. He has come out with a new blog post with a fiblet that is Sunflower series adjacent. Very nice. Okay. Well, I know I'm glad he's still alive. Hopefully he gives a date for the next book he's releasing, which I think is going to be entitled Gremlin. And it's going to be in the same setting as the freeze frame the freeze frame revolution. It's going to be similar to that. Yerp. I should probably read some of his other short stories. I'm rapidly running out of stuff by him that I can read. Right now, I think it's basically down to some of his blog posts / essays, a couple short stories that he's done in the interim, and his novelization for Crisis 2, entitled Crisis Legion, which, from what I remember, is actually pretty good, is substantially better than the video game it's trying to be from. Because it's, trying to justify everything that happens in that game and be like, so let's try to make sense out of all this. And it seems like more work than it's worth, but came out pretty well, as I remember. I should probably reread that. Yeah, good times. See you next week, and until then, stay safe, stay sane, be decent to each other. Toodaloo.